Welcome to day two of the Robot Schedule series of webinars or Automation Week. Today we're going to be looking more at Robot Schedule from an operational perspective. We want to help you navigate and see what's going on in Robot really at this point, and we're going to do that through the GUI and through a little bit of green screen. I know we had some people yesterday that were like, gosh, is this all going to be GUI? Well, you know, that's kind of what we feel is important these days, being that, you know, we want to keep the longevity of the platform going forward. And the more we stick on our green screens, I think the more we jeopardize that in itself. But that's a whole nother story. So Chuck, let's just go into our introduction slide here again. Turn it over to Mark. Mark, what's your role with Help Systems, if you don't mind sharing again? Ah, look at that, beekeeper and
You bet. I've
syrup
been with
maker.
Help
What does that
Systems for
mean?
5 years.
Yep.
I have no idea. I guess I like the sugar. So I've been with Help Systems for 5 years. Before that, I was a customer for 25 years, working with Schedule and Console and Network and all those products. And like I said, 5 years ago, I came aboard Help Systems, and along with Schedule Console and Network and things like that, also taking on Robot HA, which is an exciting newer product to Help Systems. So high availability.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. And Mark, can you share where you used to work?
Sure. I used to work at American Express, I worked at IBM, and I worked at Discount Tire.
All of them had IBM I or AS400 or I series, whatever you want to call it. How about you, Chuck? What do you do for Help Systems, and what's QUser.org?
Well, we're kind of sharing our other things that we do in our life. Mark being a beekeeper and syrup maker, and I'm now a sailor, I guess. I'm working on that. But QUser.org, that's one of the IBM I user groups across the country, located in Minnesota, and we host many events for our IBM customers and users across the state. But we are more than just a Minnesota user group. We also take in folks from anywhere across the country. We've got folks in Texas, Ohio, Nebraska, Wisconsin, etc., and provide educational opportunities for them around IBM I. I've been with Help Systems now 22 years, focused on the IBM I platform and our solutions.
Awesome, Chuck. And then finally, I'm Tom Huntington. I'm our one of our 4 IBM champions that we have at Help Systems, recognized by IBM for our thought leadership in the marketplace. And very excited to be here with Robot Schedule. I've been, I guess, had the privilege to be a customer way back on the System 38 of what was then just called Robot 38, actually. And I actually got to migrate all the source code from the 38 to the AS400 and compile it and get it ready for you as customers. And then over the years, initially did development work and programming on Robot Schedule to enhance things like group jobs, reactive jobs, things like that. So that's my background. And hey, we love Robot here, Chuck. So let's move on into our agenda.
Hard work on that.
Yeah. Just like the other day too, if you have questions, send them through the question toolbar. And if you have, I don't think you can use the chat, but we're recording this again today, so you'll be able to play it back if you need to down the road. So off to our first polling question. I think you have that, Chuck, right?
And I do. It should be launched now.
Yes.
And the question is, what is your role with your company? Are you an operator, help desk, app dev? We see a lot of folks who are applications development, but still responsible for IBM I. I have even worked one-on-one with network administrators who are also the IBM I admin. Or are you a system admin?
Yeah, downsizing IT, which means who's left gets multiple faces. I like that we have select all that apply. So in some shops, we're the operator, the help desk, the application developer, network administrator, and systems administrator, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, multiple hats. That seems to be, at the time, I haven't seen an overstaffed IBM I shop in a long time.
That's true. It's always kind of a scary fact in a way because it's, oh, okay. Do you have the results from the
I
survey? All
do.
right, there we go.
Here's what it looks like.
Application developers, look at that, 51%.
Hmm.
And then systems admin, 44%. Interesting. We would kind of expect that. Of course, operator and help desk and network administrator. And certainly that adds up to be more than 100%, which means people selected multiple roles that they take on within their organization. So that
Exactly.
doesn't surprise me. That is very common in this space. So, all
All
right,
right.
let's move on to our first topic for today. And I
All
think
right.
Mark
And I
has,
believe it's our agenda as soon as it comes up.
yeah,
There.
Mark, Chuck, we have to have you hide that polling
So my
question.
slide hasn't,
There you go.
and while that goes away, our agenda for today, we're going to talk about the job schedule list versus the schedule explorer. We're going to talk about job documentation, schedule activity monitor, robot schedule browser, job completion history, job monitors, alerting, robot query, and audits. Go ahead to the next slide, Chuck. All right, so I'm going to focus right now on the job schedule list versus the schedule explorer, and then talk a little bit about job documentation. So go ahead to the next slide. So the job schedule list versus the explorer. So the job schedule list basically is the GUI view that shows all of your jobs. And you'll notice it highlighted up in the upper left-hand corner where it says all jobs. All the jobs will be listed in the middle of the screen. By highlighting them, you can get a little bit of history from the last time it ran. Not a lot of detail in this screen. However, I find it to be the place where I manage my system most is by looking at this. So this is the regular Robot Schedule Explorer. You want to go ahead to the next slide? All right, and the next thing we have is the job schedule list. Now, if you're a green screen person, the job schedule list is going to be very recognized by you. And to get to the job schedule list in the GUI, you'll notice up at the top, there's a little red icon. You just go ahead and click on that, and that'll open up a new window with the job schedule list in there. The beauty about the job schedule list is that it has a lot of detail. It shows you when the jobs are going to run. Again, it's very much like the green screen look and feel. So if you're comfortable with that look and feel, then you will be very comfortable using the job schedule list. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And I have a delay. I don't know, is it a delay on your end too, Chuck?
No, not on my end either. So
Maybe, oh, okay, it's just on my side. Sorry about that. Job schedule list filtering. The beauty about the job schedule list is that instead of bringing up all the jobs, you can create a filter, and there's that little funnel up at the top, and that filter will allow you to create different filters to just bring up the jobs you're looking for. Maybe it's by application, maybe it's the job. In this example, starts with CL, so it brings up all the jobs starting with CL. You can create any kind of filter you'd like so that you can just look at the specific jobs you're interested in. Very handy, especially if you're in an operations role. At night, maybe you just want to see the jobs that are part of your nightly process, things like that. And go ahead to the next slide. All right, job documentation. In the green screen, I think it's option 21 that does the job documentation. In the GUI, you'll go to the job in the setup screen, and it's in the lower right-hand corner. It says job text. I really like this. Back in the day, back in the 90s, 2000s, we had a very limited amount of notes that you could take. However, we did add this job text editor. And in the real world, how I like to use that, I would create like a diary field, much like you see on the screen here, but where you put the date and the date when you set it up, who set up the job, a little bit of background with it, and then most importantly, breadcrumbs of what to do when the job fails. So, you know, you're going to call Sally in accounting, you're going to call Bill on the network team or whatever. I like to put those breadcrumbs in there, and then also I also like to add dates and times when the job might change, so that if this job was out there for a year or whatever, and then somebody made a change to it last week, at least if it blows up, people know that, hey, we just made a change to this. So it's a very important field. I would say it's underutilized, but if you do utilize it and you have a 24/7 shop, it's invaluable. All right, and that's pretty much it for job documentation. You can go ahead to
Mark,
the
I
next
totally
slide.
agree with your documentation commentary. I've worked with a number of clients over the past few months, and they've actually been using the job documentation feature. So I'm planning on doing a little exploratory surgery, so to speak, around the GUI and the green screen, talking about what you just visited. So what you're looking at, of course, is the robot schedule explorer. And let me get rid of my laser pointer. Okay, so at first what we looked at was this all jobs view. All right, and one simple thing you can do here is if you do highlight one of the jobs, you'll see a preview down below. This is a job that one of our friends in South America created. If I do a CL, notice it will position me to that job that starts with CL in the list. So that's a quick way to navigate through this list. I mean, this is a very long list of jobs. All right, so these are all the jobs in this particular instance of robot schedule. A couple ways we can drill into this information. For instance, we have pre-filters by application. So if you're utilizing the application code on your robot jobs, you can subset your list of jobs just by clicking on the application. For instance, yesterday we created the Auto Week 1 job, and that used the Auto Week application. So that's the only job that shows up now. But likewise, I can drill into that, and I go into the properties and schedule override, job completion history, and so forth. There also is an option to create filters. All right, and if we just go into the edit option, for instance, let's go into the eligibility jobs, and I'm going to edit this. We've got some predefined filters that you can take advantage of, but in this case, I'm simply looking for jobs that start with CL, and the job type is a command type job. All right, so there are the jobs that match the eligibility. And if you go back in, of course, you're into your robot schedule GUI, you're going to see this filter. And if you're missing a bunch of jobs, just go in and say quick filter, all right, or no filter, and you'll be able to get right back to where you are. So here's our show all jobs. We're right back to where we need to be. Now, we mentioned the job schedule list. So if you're more familiar with, in fact, let's review what that looks like. Here's the green screen version of robot schedule and the job schedule list. So what you'll see here, schedule code, job name, job description, days of the week, and so forth. We have basically the same view in the GUI simply by either clicking on this icon or right-clicking on the system name and saying job schedule list. So this view was modeled after the green screen, but it actually has even additional information. For instance, it does have the application name over here on the right-hand side. And many of these columns are sortable. You can also move them as you see fit. Now, a little hidden feature that I will demonstrate for you is under applications, you can right click on any one of these and you can get into, for instance, just job completion history, the schedule activity monitor, or the job schedule list just for those jobs. So this is an automatic subset that you can use at the application level now. So if you've got a lot of jobs and you're navigating around and you're kind of wondering how to, how to find certain jobs, this is one way to do it. Let's drill into one of our jobs and let's take a look at documentation. Mark said, how really critical this is. Tom mentioned, you want to obsolete yourself. You want to get all the information into your job that you possibly can. So here's our application code. Recommend you do categorize your work, notes field, but then here's the job text option. So this is where you can fully document your job. You can see this job's been around for a while. There were some changes made in 2016. All right, and if you're into hard copy, there is an option to print the job. All right, so I'll go ahead and print that. Again, probably a little used feature of the product. Not too many people actually print the contents of their jobs, but there is another icon here to work with spool files. All right, so here is my job printout just for that one job. Let's get rid of that. And what you'll see here is that the job text prints out right at the header of the job. So great for documentation. And with that, we'll turn it back over to
That is really nice job on that,
Tom.
Chuck.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Schedule Activity Monitor and Schedule Browser a little bit. So Schedule Activity Monitor is something that's been in the GUI since day one, or the graphical user interface. And we've done a great job here of capturing the tools drop-down bar where you can kind of control your preferences. So one of the options you have with Schedule Activity Monitor, you can get at it from by clicking on your system name. We'll see in the background here where it says Wisdom. Chuck, maybe you can point to that with the laser. When you click on that, you get that little drop down that allows you to do a few things. One of them is the Schedule Activity Monitor. The preferences here, what that allows you to do is maybe you have somebody on the team that you just simply want them to automatically load up the Schedule Activity Monitor. Maybe you have somebody that their goal in life is just to look at the status of the forecast, what's running and what's recently completed. That will achieve that as we show you that. And then across the toolbar, there's also view the Schedule Activity Monitor. So those are how we get into Schedule Activity Monitor. And if we move on, we'll see on the next screen the actual Schedule Activity Monitor. So what we've done is we've broken this down into a forecast on the left, show me what's forecasted. And by the way, Robot periodically throughout the day will automatically build what we call the internal forecast of what's going to run. You can actually click on those tabs across there and expand the forecast, the running, the completed, and we'll actually show you like the job number and all those other things in more detail. But the default is to show this summary view of what's forecasted, and you can right click on these jobs. You can go into their properties if you're authorized to and look at history logs and spool file information. You can even do the do feature or the schedule override feature to force a job to run. In the middle, we have the status of what's currently running. We'll still see a little yellow yield sign there next to Chuck's air invoice job. That means it's sitting on QSys Opera with a message wait. You can go in and work with that job again and answer it. We see that the SPC 421 job is running. It's currently running. That's what that means. Over to the right, we see the completed statuses of the jobs, and we can see red means the job ended abnormally, green the job ran normally. From there, we can drill in and look at spool files, completion history, and other things. Up above there, you'll see that little kind of crystal bar right next to the refresh feature. That allows you to change some of your properties and what you see here. So for instance, you might not want to see, if you're a person that has a lot of every jobs or jobs that run every so many minutes, they sometimes fill up the clutter. You can remove those from the view. You can also change the completion view to only show jobs that ended abnormally. So there's some sorting. Down to the bottom, we see when robot last woke up and did something, when it's next going to wake up, of course, our date and time, and is robot active. So wow, we covered a lot on that screen. Let's move on to the next panel here. Here we're looking at the jobs running, and notice that we expanded the tab and we can see jobs actually running and jobs waiting. Waiting again more than likely means it's waiting on QSysOper. It's got an inquiry message that needs to be answered. We also can see duration, start time, of course, the system name, even the application name if you want to see that. So move on to the next. We also have included a few slides on access to the browser. What's the difference between a browser and a GUI? A graphical user interface is, and back in the day we called them fat clients or thick clients. You have to install that on your desktop. So you have to have administrative rights to your Windows server in order to install the GUI. With the browser, what you're doing instead is you're running browser technology, and that's going to run, that HTTP server is going to run on a Windows or Linux server, and then that will give you access to other robot products besides the robot schedule browser. We have some PowerTech products in here, etc. There's also some dashboarding capabilities, but I'll show you that too in the demo in just a bit. So let's move ahead. From here, you can do deployment. So our idea behind the browsers and GUIs is try to give you a better experience versus green screen completely. In this day and age, we can consolidate some things. So I'll show you some examples of that. So multiple IBM partitions, pulling that together with the browser interface is kind of the goal with our dashboards. And then also mobile access too. If you really want to, you could bring up robot schedule activity monitor right on your cell phone. It does require, you're probably going to need VPN running on your cell phone in order to do that, or your browser at home. I have to do that. I mean, it's just kind of the required access these days. Okay, next slide. And then again, one of the other, what's the benefit? One of the things I find in the browser is the diagramming capabilities are really nice, and we'll demonstrate this shortly, but you can just simply right click on a job and build out a diagram of the activity. It's a little more flexible than the GUI one, and I'll show you both today, and you'll see kind of the difference here, and how different it is. You can do that from the schedule activity monitor, and you can do that from jobs, and I'll show you both of those. All right, so next slide. And again, this just gives you a better view. The browser, the difference with the browser is that wherever you can load a browser, you can run the web interface. And again, I can do that from my cell phone, from my iPad, from my browser on my PC, laptop. I don't know about you, but I have to wear my glasses, so I have a tendency to like to see things like this on my browser on my desktop versus on a cell phone. But you can do that. You can view your jobs, right? I'm showing my age today. Okay, let's move ahead here. I think our next slide is to do a little demo. So let me take over presenter control, Chuck, and I'm gonna share my desktop here. Let's make sure we want to show screen two. All right. So first of all, I had a question in the Q&A about, well, where do you get the GUI from? Okay. Well, what you have to do is you have to go to the community portal. So if you don't have an account, you'll need to create one. If you do, there's a download tab. And, oh, okay. I guess I got to sign in here. Oh, of course. Bad demo guy. Chuck, do you have yours up? I'm going to see if my password works here. I'll have you maybe get that up in the background. Hopefully I remember my password and don't have to, oh, good, we got lucky. All right, so then we go to product downloads, and we can come in, we'll see everything from help system. So be prepared. I know you're used to robot, but I choose robot, I apply it. It shows me all of the robot products. If I click on robot schedule, it'll come up with a sub panel here. I know, guys, I'm deviating from the normal demo. And the GUI, if you just need the GUI and you already have robot schedule, all you're going to do is click on this and it'll download it, start downloading it like we see here to my desktop. It's going to put it in the download folders and away you go. You also, you can then download your robot schedule product. So that's that. And then the one other thing, the browser technology is done through this Help Systems Insight tab, and you would go over to it, and then you would download and run that browser technology on your server. So there's a whole step on that. There's a bit involved in that. Notice my downloads running in the background. All right, so I deviated a little bit from our pre-planned demo, but thought you better see where you can get that GUI from first. So now we have the GUI up, we're loaded on a system. What I want to do first of all is I'm going to show you Schedule Activity Monitor. So when I click on that tab, it's automatically going to default to the jobs on the entire system. There is pre-filtering, so you do have the ability to, I believe, let's see, I should really look at that. I believe you can do that from application. I know you can do that from your agents to see just the jobs that are going to run on your agent. In our example right now, these are jobs that are yet to run today. Like I said, I can right click here and I can look at properties, schedule override, history, check the job off and force it. And I can also look at the forecast tab here. Again, I can check off the forecasted job. That's for external jobs. And then running, we have nothing running right now. And over here to the right, we have obviously jobs that have completed with green. I can sort by status here if I want, and then it's going to reload and show me those that ended abnormally. I believe the default is to show that on top. And of course, we got to wait for that to run. So from here, what's really nice is I can drill right into the job log. So one of the things, yesterday we had somebody asking, well, this is, all GUI, I only use the green screen. And my point on this was, well, here's some of the benefits. Right here, I can go right into completion history for the job. I also can do things like in the GUI, I guess we didn't show you this. I could say I want to highlight this entire screen here, and I want to copy to my clipboard, and I could put that into email or spreadsheet or whatever. Very easy to do. I also have the ability to drill in and look at the job or the spool files in this case because the job ended abnormally already. And then if I bring up the spool file over here, I can, maybe I want to send to the developer the copy of the job log. I have the ability through the GUI just to click on this, open up the spool file. I could say select all again, and I could copy that to my clipboard and I could send it over to the developer. So great from a problem determination perspective, navigating SAM, okay? So that's that. Here's also that little bar that will rerun the forecast if we want. And then I think here's the properties. This is where I could say, hey, just show me only the failed jobs that are on the system. Do you want me to include all my every jobs? So since I do that, this is going to change the screen. I'm only going to see what's failed over here. I think I'll also see a few more. I don't know if we have any every job are running or not, but they'll show up. We do. So maybe not quite like your system. We have some things that are running every hour, as we can see now. Okay, so that's SAM, very helpful feature of robot schedule in the GUI. I do believe, can I open up SAM by application? I want to say that if I right click on this application here, yeah, I can do schedule activity just for an application. So maybe I want to just look at my sales jobs, my payroll jobs, my backup jobs. I have the ability to do that there. I also have the ability to do that from my agent. I can look at schedule activity monitor just for this Windows server, for example. All right. So as long as we're with the GUI, let's do another nice little handy feature in the GUI. And that is, I'm going to show you schedule blueprint. All right. And here, our daily backup job. One of the things that you can do with any job is you can right click on it, and I have some options, right? I can see what it's reactive on. But I also have this blueprint feature. And so when I submit this to batch, which I did already, what'll happen is I'll just do it again anyway, so it's no big deal. It'll submit the job off to batch here and say that it's been submitted. And then to view your blueprints in the GUI, you go to job blueprints, and it'll come up with a list of all the ones that you've submitted like I just did. And it gives you by job name or by event. Remember, you can do this also against file events. So I can do events like where I'm monitoring on something in the IFS, and I'm just showing you a little preview down there. So if I go to my daily backup, if I double click on this and view it rather, it comes up. It has my job and it says, hey, when this job daily backup finishes, it's going to cause this CL nightly to run, which is a group job. And the way I know that is there's a little legend that comes with this, and we can see these multi-gear things here. Where are my multi-gears? This is a group job. And then we also have this little thing here, which means I believe there's multi-events. So I gotta go find that reactive job. So this job is gonna be running now. The other thing I can do is I know that this group job has other jobs that are gonna run based on it. I can do a reload, and what's gonna happen is it's going to then load in all the other jobs that are dependent. I think this gets kind of, what do you want to call it? Advanced. It's going to add a bunch of parameters to it. All right, and here we go. We just got a bunch of things in here. Now I can move things around if I want to pretty up this, and then actually even save this. So we can see I would move things around because I like to get I have like this one here that's a dependency. I have this one here that's a dependency. So getting all these dependencies in line here. And then the other thing, I believe I can just right click here and maybe I want to create a comment. Come on, comment. Okay. This is my daily backup process. Maybe I want to go to a development meeting and show them how this daily process thing is scheduled in Robot Schedule. This is what allows me to do. I do have to have some work, I got to clean this thing up a little bit, but believe me, a lot easier to look at than using the old green screen. And then I can save this, I can PDF it and other things, right? All right, but when I back out, I think it asks me, do I want to save it? I also can I can go into properties of a job from here too. I can right click on this and go to the properties, do reload, okay? You'll have to play around a little bit, but now you know it's there, right? So now we're gonna save it. All right.
Cool feature
I have the schedule activity monitor. Of course, it signed off while I was messing around. Let's go back into that. So we have Insight running on, I believe, a Windows server. And one of the features that we have is the ability to look at Robot Schedule through the browser. And I can click on this and see all these various products. I'm looking at Robot Schedule. One of the things I think is really neat, if I have multiple partitions to find Insight, I'm looking at the system wisdom. It tells me the number of jobs forecasted, jobs finished, jobs failed. But then it's also showing me my other partition, Academy, with 34 jobs forecasted, and another system, both of them here. And I could have more systems here. I also can click on the schedule activity monitor from here, and I can see those here. All right, and that's coming up. All right, so here are my jobs that I have that are forecasted as we saw earlier. There's also a preference here where I can go in and change my preferences and show every jobs if I want. I also can click down on these little buttons, and I can, or the hamburger, I guess is what I've heard it referred to as. I can go in and I can do diagram. So notice there's a bunch of other options there. I don't have time to show you all those options, but here's just another way of building flowcharts. So here, the difference is, as I said, I think this is a little more robust because it automatically builds out all the relationships and lays them out a little better. I'm just clicking on that little plus sign to show the dependencies. Like standard browser, I can do minus here, make this a little smaller. Maybe I want to add this guy in here. I actually can run this and watch the activity, so I could see live while the process runs. I could export this image. So I just took an image of that. And if I open that up, let's see which panel is it going to come up on. Okay, there we go. So now we have an image of the relationship. Kind of nice, huh? I also can I could do the same thing by looking at jobs on the system here. So the benefit to me, let's see, reactive job. So here's another reactive job. I have no idea what I'm going to see, but I can do the diagram from one of these two here just to see. This is an agent job. It's a Windows job. Pretty simple. Those are the only two things there going on. All right. I think that's enough for this demo, Chuck.
Tom, that was awesome.
All right.
All right, I'm
Moving
gonna make
on.
myself
I probably
presenter.
took too much time.
All right,
Sorry.
that's okay. Let's
Back to the
make
PowerPoint.
presenter. There we go. Let me know when you can see my screen, job completion history and job monitors.
There you go. Take it away.
All right. So a lot of what Tom just showed you in the schedule activity monitor is based on our audit trail of job run history. We call it the job completion history. And I really consider it to be a gold mine of information. So basically, after the job is run, we record, actually while the job is running and when it gets submitted, we're tracking all the information about a job. Even after the job log is long gone, you've still got an audit trail of when the job started, when it completed, how long it ran, did it complete normally, and so forth. And you can keep as much of that history as you want. Unfortunately, many people aren't keeping much history at all, maybe just a few occurrences, like 6 occurrences of a job running. I think you're doing yourself a disservice, and you might want to consider changing the way you purge your job completion history to keep more. All right, so that's our job completion history. And then we also have our job monitoring events. We looked at that yesterday, where we can configure job event monitoring, that if a job runs too long, doesn't run long enough, or doesn't get started on time, we can do notification, and that also goes into a log. It'll show up in the job completion history, and we have separate reports about that. Also, in the job completion history, you'll see information about expiring data objects and calendars. Mark talked about that yesterday, but we do have some messaging around that. And then all that history shows up in the Good Morning Report. Are you using the Good Morning Report? Well, we're going to show you how to leverage that. Now, if you don't know if you're purging the job completion history, take a look at how many records are in the RBT message file in the Robot Live library. Just do a display file description and take a look at the records. And if you've got 20 million history records, you probably aren't purging, and you probably need to contact technical support. Okay, so how do you get to job completion history? In the green screen, it's an option 11 next to the robot job. We'll look at that in a minute. Otherwise, you can click on the overall job completion history here. It's this little paper icon with a green check mark by it. Otherwise, you can right click on your system name and ask for job completion history. And from here, what you'll see is all the jobs, or you can use the data filter. That's one of the things about the GUI interface, is you can filter a lot of the lists however you want to see your data. And from here, you'll see The job history information, you also see those job monitoring events. Like for instance, here we've got an overrun job monitor event occurred. It shows up as a warning. Okay, so the status of the history record is what indicates what information is going to be contained in it. Likewise, you can right click on any one of these and you can get into, for instance, the job log. You can get into the QHIST information. You can see any spool files associated with that occurrence of the job running. So you're going to see multiple occurrences of your job running out here. Okay, likewise by job, if you want to see just an individual job's history, you just right click on the job itself and ask for job completion history. You'll see that information. And for instance, you can see that, even if the job is just active, we call it running, you'll see that out here. So here we've got an occurrence of the backup running, but there's a warning saying it's overran its maximum run monitor time slot. Okay, let's talk about the job monitors. On any individual job, you can insert or add a job overrun, job underrun, or late start monitor. So for instance, at the top here, we've got a 5-hour maximum job runtime on our daily backup. Likewise, we've got a late start monitor of 10:30 or 8:30 at night. Job must start at 8:30. And this is actually based on that forecast that Tom Huntington was talking about related to the schedule activity monitor. Now you can look at just the job monitor events by clicking on the icon in the toolbar right next to the job completion history, job monitors and other warnings. Late start, underrun, you can see those are represented there, and there are associated reports if you'd like to have an audit report around that as well. Okay, so we got a lot of information in this job completion history. If you want to run reports over that, for instance, let's say you just want to look at your list of warnings that you've gotten across your job completion history. You would go to the job history reports, job completion message reports, select the job status that you want to look at, the date range, and then from there you can either click on the schedule button, will automatically create a robot job for you, or simply submit it off, and you'll get something like this. Okay, now this job history report happens to be the Good Morning report. We recommend that you do run this report and at least keep it as an audit trail, because it's a great management report telling you how many jobs ran, 175, how many jobs completed normally, 165. Oh, and by the way, 10 jobs ended abnormally. That's page 1 of the report. Page 2 of the report lists the jobs that completed abnormally or terminated, which again is a great audit report. Okay, let's do a little bit of live demo, just a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say the other guy who did the demo probably took too long, so.
That's okay. That's okay, Tom. So let's first of all go into the green screen. So I mentioned let's go into my daily backup. Daily. All right. So this is green screen. Option 11, job completion history. Option L for job log, and you can prompt next to the option, and you can see you can go into QHIST entries, you can go into L for job log, you can work with the job, and so forth. All right, so that's green screen. We don't want to spend a lot of time there. Let's jump over to let's just go to the Schedule Explorer. I mentioned right here is the overall job completion history. All right, so this is your whole world. Here's what's going on. This information does feed the schedule activity monitor. All right, so I'm going to just right click on any one of these and let's double click. Just so you can see some of the information that you'll have even after, for instance, after QSysOpera is cleared and your job logs are cleared, you've still got this audit trail that you can take advantage of. All right, likewise, let's go into the all jobs option. If I right click, I can get into the job completion information here. All right, so if I want to get into, for instance, I want to see the job log for my latest age out queue command that ran on June 22nd. here's what it looks like. All right. And Tom showed you that. You can get, this is that same link that you saw in the schedule activity monitor. So we leverage that history multiple places within the product. Now back to job monitors, job overrun, underrun, and late start. Here's our job monitor events. This is what's happened in the last 2 days. We've had a couple of overrun and underrun events. And once again, you can run reports over this, and it identifies the job that has the issue. So obviously we have a couple of jobs here that are having some issues continually. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you is how do you clean this up? So a couple different ways. First of all, you may have an RBT 655 job on your system. That's the command that you would call, or the program that you would call to purge history. There also is an automatic purge. All right, so in this case, I'm purging all of my data for 18 months, or I'm keeping 18 months worth of data and purging everything before that. So it's it requires 2 dates, a start date and end date, and I'm using a reserve command variable, which we're going to cover in our advanced section. Okay, likewise under system setup and system defaults, history options. We've got a couple of purges here. First of all, job monitor events. And here's our default, automatically delete job history. You can see I've got that checked. So what this means is all newly created robot jobs will keep 60 history records on each job. We ship this with a 6, and this is one of those metrics that are, or parameters that I think you guys ought to change to increase the number of history records that you keep. And that number, when you create new robot jobs, you will see that on the control options panel. Okay, so right down here, history records. You'll probably see a number 6 here, unless somebody has changed the default. So the number of history runs can be changed at any time on any job.
All right, let's hit alerting, query, and audits and move on. So within Robot, you have the ability to be alerted to when a job terminates or the job monitors, as Chuck just saw. We will put that information off to the message queue associated with the job, which often defaults to QSys Hopper. It doesn't have to be that way. You can change that. And then Robot Alert. When it's on a message queue, obviously any product can be used to monitor that message queue and notify you. Queries are in the product so that you can do some additional research and looking for just a subset of jobs. Chuck showed you filters. We had some questions on filters. I want to save that question to the end. We'll do a little live demo and show you that. And then also the auditing was put in for things like Sarbanes-Oxley and PCI and other audits that you have to pass. You can see who put jobs on hold and what command was changed before and after, and so we'll show you some of those things too. Let's keep her rolling. So alerting with the product, we'll send a message ID RB16404 for jobs that ended abnormally. You can control on your control panel where your job is set up where that message goes to. By default, it probably goes to QSys Hopper for you, but this is every single job will show that information. We also can alert directly to Robot Alert via email or text message. That's where that integration comes to play. And then, of course, the job monitors also have the ability to have those messages sent to, and there's a unique ID for those too. Okay. So on the control panel is where you have your work management parameters, is where you control the Robot Alert device that you're going to use, along with, let's see, message queue. Put your little highlighter on message queue up above. Up, there you go. So message queue, this is normally defaulted into QSys Hopper, but back in the day when Tom Huntington ran his system, I created my own message queue just for robot schedule. So it wasn't mixed in with everything else on the system. So I kind of filtered that way. And with Robot Alert, you can tie in paging. You can have a broadcast list. You can have multiple people get paged or emailed or text. Okay. And then here we show, by doing the show defaults, we're actually showing, what is the pager ID associated with the job environment called accounting. Okay. And then, wow, switching gears, we jump into robot query. In the product, in the GUI or green screen, there's a feature called query objects. And what these were put in there for was so that you could create your own kind of query of against our database to find jobs. There's even an update feature. So you could say, I want to mass update all of my jobs and switch it from job description Q batch to job description payroll in QGPL. So we give you a bunch of fields to select. You can do like, compares. So it's a good way of subsetting your jobs and finding certain jobs that have certain commands in them. That kind of thing is used quite often in the product, okay? And then auditing. Like I said earlier, auditing, we needed it for Sarbanes-Oxley. A couple things people do from a SOX perspective, they use the auditing feature, they use the Good Morning report, and then they use our security reports that we have in the product. We also have security reports that print out who's authorized to use robot. Audit logs, we keep 365 days worth of audits. The way we're auditing is we actually use IBM journaling to audit the critical files in robot. And I know that we don't do every single thing that's in robot, but we do audit a majority of it, and it'll certainly help you pass the audit. All right, let's move on. And there's a system setup audit log report, and this allows you to choose a date range and then other parameters associated. You can do things like omit. I don't want to see robot admin, robot user, robot enterprise user updates because those are done by us internally. You really only care about your team, who's changing a job, who did a do on a job. That's what we're looking for here. Okay. And the audit report then will show you the before image and the after image, or the schedule override code. In this case, we're showing that somebody has held a job, and who it was that held it. And then down below here, we're showing that somebody did an update and they changed the description of the job is what we're primarily showing, okay? So I guess we're gonna do a live demo. This is yours too, or is this mine? That's you.
Tom, it's mine. I'll just do a real quick demo, specifically around, I'd like to just show query, because I think this could be handy. And one of the things we see is that folks will put information into a job and then they can't remember what job they put it in. Like for instance, maybe a call to a particular program. All right, so to create a query, you simply do a new option. And I've got one here that I'm going to jump into. I call it command check. All right, so when you create a query, click on the add button and then click on the prompter. And what this is going to show you is all the fields in our robot jobs that you, all right. So in this case, I selected the command line. I'm going to query the command line.
That's a good
And
one.
yeah. And so I want to look up maybe a particular command. Let's say I want to look up, I want to look up that RBT 655 program. What job did I put that into? All right, so let's see if we can find it. Okay, right click
Is
and
this where I turn on the drum roll?
drum roll, please. So now it's searching through all our robot jobs, and what you'll see is a list of all the jobs that have RBT 655 in the command line someplace, because I used the like compare and I used a % as the wildcard, and sure enough, I have 2 jobs. And likewise, I can even drill into those now, and it will show me a display only view of those jobs. All right.
I
So
forgot
now I
about
can
that.
go through, yeah. So now I can go in and I can make modifications or whatever. Okay, so that was my quick demo of a query.
Okay. Hey, insiders, let's not forget about insiders. We do have a forum out there now for IBMI where you can ask questions of other customers. It's free to join. We'd love to have you join. And there's potential awards that you can win by being a active user in that. So love to encourage you to join the Help Systems Insiders, https://insiders.helpsystems.com. And maybe Chuck, we should put that in the chat for people, make it real easy for them just to launch
Sure,
that.
will do. Will do.
Okay. And then let's do our polling question, and hopefully we have this correct so you can select all that apply. Please select all that apply. I'd like robot schedule training. I'd like a robot health check. A health check, again, is where we'll run through and take a look at how you're using one of our robot products and make suggestions based on our professional experience. I'd like to set up a personalized demo. I'd like to just do a robot schedule trial. You get the full product on our trial. We just give you a security code and you run through it. I would like a tech update conversation. That means what we're going to do is take your team, you and your colleagues, through everything that Help Systems does. Talk about the products that you own from us. Talk about what's new, roadmap type items. Maybe things that you're looking for, and really help you understand the whole world of Help Systems. We'll do that for you. That's a fun little thing. All right. While we have that polling question up, we have a few good Q&A in here. Chuck, do you have any, or Mark have any questions you'd like to answer?
Yep. Well, as far as previous recordings, of course, we're going to send that out. You'll get a copy of all the recordings as well as the presentations to study up on. There'll be a quiz. Is there a way to search job list by job description? I would say using query, right?
Well, but let me show you something, Chuck. I'd like to
yeah.
actually
Okay,
demo that for them. We also showed the GUI already. So one of the other questions was, how do I find the GUI? We showed you that live. So I think I can be presenter, right?
Can you be presenter and have the polling too? Let's see.
Did it come up?
We still got the poll. I'd have to close the poll.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, I think we're good on that now at this point,
okay,
right?
let's go ahead and close the poll.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Now it's going to allow me to show screen 2. All right. And so I did that. Okay, so if I come back here and say jobs, show all jobs. Oh, actually, I have it filtered. So I want to go to my filters, and I can use quick filter, which is going to show everything. All right, so I got rid of it. Couple things. One, you can click on description. Notice how my description's blank here. But if I come over here and type in CL, it'll take me to my first job that meets that. The other thing I have is these filters. If I right click, I can go into filters, and I created one earlier called demo, but let me edit filters. And if I look at this filter, what I did was is description, and now I got description, I got overrides, job name. So if description, it changed it. If it contains the word demo, okay, now I want to set that as my default. Now what I'm going to have to remember is that it's always going to do that. But now it's going to show me any job that has demo in it in the description. Voila. Now filters are there. Filters are used throughout the product. You have to, like if I go to, let's say, completion history, I can create filters here too, right? And I have the ability to create a new one. And again, I could just say those same demo jobs. And I want to choose, oh, maybe description's not in here. It is not. So there is a bit of a subset on that. Well, so job name, in this case, contains demo. I don't know what we'll get. We'll see if we get any. Let's go through and pull all of our completion history for, oh, yeah, there we go. I forgot I had a job that has demo in it and a few others, and Roxy and others. And so there you go. Chuck, back to you.
Okay, let me take control back. And that concludes today's presentation.
We had a few more
We had a
questions
few more.
out
Yeah,
there.
we do, and I'm gonna follow up with Lori one-on-one. And one of the questions
Petron?
is, if I have only a job number, can I find an associated job name through the GUI? Let's follow up on that tomorrow. So maybe what we'll do is we'll start with a couple of answers to these questions tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good.
How's that?
Perfect.
Otherwise, we are at the top of the hour. Appreciate everybody's time today. We've covered a lot of ground, and hope you're enjoying seeing a little bit more in our robot schedule tool, and keep those questions coming.
Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.